It was already dark outside when I got into the car to go to my parents' home village. It was New Year's Eve and I couldn't afford to be late. The snowfall was getting heavier and the roads were covered with snow, but I decided to drive. The road through the forest was practically empty. A rare car met me like a ghost, disappearing behind the shroud of snow. Around 9 in the evening, I passed the last houses of a small town, where I refueled and took a thermos with hot tea. Then there was only emptiness ahead, endless snow-covered roads framed by dense forest. The trees stood covered with snowcaps, like frozen guardians of the Winter Kingdom. The radio played quietly in the car, but the signal was often lost, and I thought of turning it off altogether. Time passed, and the landscape outside the window remained unchanged. After about an hour of driving, when I was beginning to wonder how much farther it was to the village, a strange feeling crept into my soul. It was as if someone was watching me from the darkness outside the window. I looked around, but I didn't see anything unusual. Nevertheless, the unpleasant feeling did not leave me. Suddenly, something flashed from behind the trees. I caught a glimpse of a huge dark figure moving at an incredible speed. Instantly, a surge of adrenaline swept over me, and I clutched the steering wheel frantically. What was that? I asked myself, but of course there was no answer. The creature reappeared, running across the road a few meters ahead of me. I slammed on the brakes, the wheels skidded on the icy asphalt, and the car skidded. I managed to stop, but my heart was pounding like it was going to burst. What I saw made my blood run cold. There was a giant figure standing right in front of the car. It was over 2 meters tall, covered in thick black hair. The creature's eyes glowed with red lights that burned through me. It wasn't a bear or any other animal you might find in the forest. It moved like a man, confidently, but with a wild grace. I didn't know what to do. The car's engine was still running, but my feet were stuck to the floor, preventing me from pressing the gas pedal. The creature stared at me without making any movement, but every glance seemed to sap my strength. And it took the first step in my direction. It was like my consciousness was screaming at me, "Go! Go right now!" But my body didn't obey. The creature moved slowly but menacingly, and I suddenly realized that if I didn't do something right now, I would never get out of here. Gathering my courage, I stepped on the gas. The car shrieked, wheels slipping in the snow, but a second later it was off the road. In the rearview mirror, I saw the creature rushing after it. It was running on 4 limbs, but at some inhuman speed, and the distance between us was shrinking. At that moment, I thought that my car was my only defense. I pressed on the gas, trying not to think about what would happen if it caught up with me. The engine roared, but the snow and ice on the road kept me from reaching top speed. My heart was pounding so loudly that I could barely hear the roar of the engine. The creature was getting closer. Its eyes were following me, and that was the worst part of the chase. It made no sound except the crunch of snow under its paws. All nature seemed to stand still, watching this coupling between me and this monster. Suddenly I saw a turn ahead. If I could get into it at speed, I might be able to pull away. I knew it was risky, but I had no choice. I turned the steering wheel sharply and the car almost went off the road, but I held on. In the rearview mirror, I saw the creature lose its balance and slip on the snow. That gave me a few precious seconds. I took that chance and hit the gas as hard as I could. The road began to climb uphill, and I knew that if the engine stalled or the car started to slip, it was all over. But luck was on my side. The car kept going, though I heard the deafening crunch of snow behind me again. The creature got up and chased me again. I don't know how long the race lasted. The minutes stretched into eternity. Finally, I saw lights ahead. It was the village. I had never been so happy to see electric lights flickering in the distance. It seemed that with them came salvation. The creature fell behind as soon as I entered the first streets of the village. It stopped at the edge of the forest, as if an invisible barrier prevented it from entering the lighted road. I saw its silhouette in the rearview mirror. It stood watching me, its eyes burning like 2 embers in the darkness. When I finally parked at my parents' house, my hands were shaking so badly that I could barely get the keys out of the ignition. My mother ran out to me, surprised by my pale face and shaking hands, but I couldn't explain. Only hours later, when I had recovered a little, did I tell them what had happened. My father hesitated and said, "You are not the first to tell of such a creature. Many who travel this road talk about it, but no one knows what it is. Some say it is a spirit of the forest that guards its territory. Others say it's an ancient curse. But one thing I do know is that you were very lucky to get away alive." That night has stayed in my memory forever, and ever since, even when the road seems empty and safe, I always remember those burning red eyes that can watch me from the darkness.